Let me start. So hi everyone, I'm Dalia from Ideas, and I'm welcoming everyone. Thank you for your time, and thank you for joining us, this organization, in this weekly webinar. So before we jump into the webinar, let me just briefly introduce what is Ideas, and for those who don't know, let me just briefly explain what we do and why we do that. So hope everyone see my screen, and yeah. So Ideas is International Data Engineering and Science Association, and it's a non-profit organization based in Los Angeles, California. Oops, okay. So our mission is to bridge the gap between academia and industry. So basically, we are very excited about data science, machine learning, and AI, and also blockchain. And we are sharing that enthusiasm with others, and we are here to connect these passionate people from data science background with each other to share the ideas, the thoughts, and just simply collaborate. So we are the bridge between the academia and industry. This is the roadmap. So we started in 2016, and we're known for hosting webinars and conferences across the country. So 2 years ago, our first conference was held in USC. This is the first so-called conference in USC. Yeah, it was not that big, but after 2 years, so-called conference in 2018 grew up to be very big in Los Angeles Convention Center. We also do conferences in New York, Boston, Chicago. These are photos from New York. This is from Chicago, 2018, blockchain leadership. And this one was held, so-called conference in Pasadena Convention Center. And the latest one is the so-called conference in Los Angeles Convention Center, the big one. So yeah, apart from conferences, we also do meetups, mixers at universities such as MIT, Harvard, Boston colleges, and USC, also UCLA. You can check our website for more information on upcoming conference, and they also can sign up for weekly and newsletter with information on upcoming webinars. You can also join us on LinkedIn and let us be connected. So now let me introduce our wonderful guest speaker for today. His name is Juan Vasquez. He is a data programs manager at the City of Los Angeles Office of Finance. Juan solves city problems with the help of big data analysis and visualization. And he uses tools like Esri, Argus, Tableau, Socrata to bring data from databases to speak and tell stories. Juan is also a freelance instructor on data analysis and data visualization, and a former lead data strategist at Mayo Garcesi's operations innovation team. So welcome, Juan. We're very excited to have you today, and we can't wait to start the webinar. So thank you.
Thanks, Dalia. I appreciate that introduction, and I appreciate you and the entire Ideas team for having me on. I'm also very thankful to all of the participants who have jumped in, and the entire Ideas community. I myself have been fortunate enough to participated and spoken at all of the conferences that you've all held in Southern California / Los Angeles, and it's just so exciting to watch this community develop and the disciplines come together in such wonderful ways. So very excited to be here. So at this point, I have a few things to share with everybody. I don't have slides. I have a number of websites and data sets and examples that I'll share with you all. So I will first spend about 2 minutes giving you all a sense of my personal and professional background. And then after that, we will talk a little bit about the Office of Finance, my employer. What do we do there? We're a huge organization. We bring a bunch of money to the table. We have very important city functions. And so I'll explain a little bit about what we do. And then the meat of the webinar and our time together will focus on what is finance doing through the lens of data and data science to improve the business experience in all of its its meanings. Then I want to share with you all some of the exciting initiatives that we have going on. And we'll talk a little bit about how color and shapes and design plays into our work. Additionally, this is kind of like the last disclaimer. I am at my girlfriend's family's house. We're having a nice family weekend. We have some food being grilled up, but it also means that there's about 5 children, all under the age of 6, right outside this door. And so if it gets a little loud, please feel free to let me know. If perhaps this tiny tribe of humans runs in, don't panic. They will not hurt anyone. They're just excited that something weird on the internet is happening. But if you hear any ambient noise, I've done my best to contain them, but it's a lot of them and they're very little. So they don't care about ideas or data science. Okay, so let me share with you all. I'm gonna flip my screen now so you all get a sense of what it is that I do and what my days look like. First, I'll share with you all a little bit about myself. This is my personal website, Vasquez says. I have a somewhat of a unique professional background. My career started in advertising, and so I bring my experience and background in strategic communication and framing through my data work. And so it is something that I always keep very much in mind. I'm always very aware of who my audiences are when I'm creating a data project. And so Dalia mentioned a little bit about my background, but just know it all started with advertising for me. I did that for about 3 years. And that gave me an opportunity to build a really interesting foundation for all of my data knowledge and data work. I love data, and I spend time with it outside of work, not just at the Office of Finance. Here, where you're looking at is a dashboard, a Tableau dashboard. It's a business intelligence tool, similar to Microsoft Power BI. You can feed data into it a number of ways, and visualize all kind of interactive, wonderful things. It might reload in a minute, but I run a listserv for Latinas and Latinos working in technology. We're called TechTinex. And this is how I typically show our year in review. So instead of doing just a simple newsletter, we look at a word cloud to get a sense of who's done what, use heat maps to look at peak, date, time, activity, timelines to get a sense of peak activity during the year, bar charts to look at different categories. No, don't worry too much about the details here, just a sample of work from my personal life. Here's a sample, a very similar dashboard, also built in Tableau. This tracked the first half of last year for all of the new businesses that were being registered in the city. So another Tableau example. Most definitely use a lot of maps in my work. GIS and the entire world of spatial sciences and spatial data, I think will play a bigger and bigger role in more of the mainstream data work. But being someone that works within local government, that works at a city agency tasked with serving people, I find that I consistently have to remind folks, and it is my job to remind folks, that the place where we do our work matters, the locations around us, the communities where people live, that all really matters. We'll look at a bit of a use case later. Additionally, Dalia mentioned I teach a visualizing open data class and a data visualization bootcamp in Los Angeles. So anybody that's interested, that lives in LA, at least, you can come to General Assembly. If you want to check out my classes, you can go to bit.ly/dataviz in LA. I use shortened links for many, many things. And so there you'll get all of my classes as they kind of come and go. So a little bit about me again. It starts with strategic framing, advertising, strategic communications, and then my career has kind of pivoted and gone technical over the last 6 or so years. I'm now in the process of teaching myself Python, because we most definitely need Python at the local government level. So that's me. Let me now tell you about the Office of Finance, which is really where things start getting a little more interesting for us here. So the Office of Finance is one, and what we're looking at here is the finance website. So it's one of the city's 40 plus departments, one of the largest ones. It's about 300 employees. And we have a very important function. Our job is to bring about $3 billion, that's with a B, to the table which then feeds the city's general funds. And so that's the main budget that, we have a lot of crazy fires in Southern California. And so we need a lot of money to make sure our fire department has the staff and equipment they need. That all comes from the revenue we as a department collect. Streets, although our streets in LA could be better. LA has the nation's largest street system. It is an insane amount of streets that we need to maintain. That's also expensive. And so having that, we know we have to be ready for earthquakes and emergency preparations. We're the second largest city in the country with about 4 million people. We have to protect ourselves, and that means that we need to be ready, and that means emergency management. And so how do we make money for that? So that's what we do. We are a 300-person department who brings billions of dollars to the city's general fund, and we do that by collecting city business tax and also permits, so fire, police, alarm, tobacco permits. And additionally, we handle all of the collections for the city. So about 60% of the collections that our department gathers are from businesses who are late on their taxes, but the other third comes from other city departments. So we're also consistent. Like if someone gets a DUI in the city and the city attorney has to go after them because they crashed into a pole or they hurt someone, and eventually we might have to go collect on that as a department. So we have a lot of operations. We have about 12 different divisions, a highly outdated tech frame stack. We have, right now we're modernizing our system of record, which is an Oracle database. We're modernizing it so that APIs can plug into it and data can go out through third-party APIs. So we're most definitely going through a modernization process in the Office of Finance. Last few kind of more contextual facts for you all. The Office of Finance has about 500,000 active registered businesses. That is all of the people that we think are businesses, and then, hold on, one of the little ones just opened up the door. And so there are 500,000 businesses that have registered with us at the Office of Finance. That doesn't mean that that's the only businesses there are. There's way more. I have my own kind of gut idea, and we're working with a great team out of Cal State LA. Idalia is a part of that team. To answer big questions like that. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But again, just wanted to provide you all some context for what finance does. I want to point out a few things we've done to our website that capitalize on data to provide a better experience. And that's why, what this is all about. So the first thing I'll point out is the Ask Chip button at the very top. Chip is an automated customer service virtual assistant. And so Chip, this is one instance that runs off the entire city's database. And so if I say, hi, Chip, I just want to type new business, for example. Chip is now digging into its knowledge bank. And based on the keywords that I typed in, it's now feeding me an answer. It also speaks Spanish, so we can say things like, nuevo negocio, let's see if this works. Oh, okay. Well, that means I got to go in and configure this line. But this is a new effort that we have. It's a virtual assistant that runs on a central knowledge base. We have the second most active Chip instance. LAPD has the first because emergencies is really tough to be more engaging than public safety. I'll share two more things on here. We've launched this new Do-It-Yourself Tools suite. And in here, we aim to answer some of the really low-hanging fruit that would otherwise have someone calling our phone lines. And so one of the lowest hanging fruit questions that we get is like, what do I potentially owe in business tax? As a business owner in LA, I'm planning for the year. What do I potentially owe? A business owner shouldn't have to call a hotline and wait and have another human being do a simple calculation. So what you have here is a user inputted calculator. This runs on Tableau as well. And so what it lets me do is select the business type that I am. We have a whole bunch of childcare providers in Los Angeles. And I say how much I made last year. So I made $70,000 as a childcare provider. And now I can expect to owe $70.70 in city business tax if I don't use our small business tax exemption, which most people do. So here's one example of using a business intelligence tool like Tableau to create user tools that have nothing to do with data visualization, but it's just a user parameter that's inputted, a calculation runs in the background, and hopefully, you know, someone's question gets answered much faster than dialing a contact center. The other, another sample tool that we'll quickly look at as part of the web enhancements we're making, again, trying to beef up our suite of web tools so that, you know, folks don't have to call for everything. They should have web tools to answer simple things. One other question was like, I don't know if I'm in the city of Los Angeles. Can you check that for me? And so we just created a simple map that houses the LA city boundary. And if an address lands in it, it says that it is inside. If it lands outside, it says out. Very simple. So there's no need to go digging through zip code lists and see where you are. If my address was out here in the gray, nothing, you know, the point would be located and no in call would be generated. So two little simple examples of web improvements we've made that leverage data in the underlying technology to ease and improve the business experience. So I've shared with you a little bit about me. I've shared with you a little bit about the Office of Finance. Now let me tell you some of the things we're doing to embrace data and data science and all of the wonders that these disciplines bring. Let me close this. Give me 1 second, we're freezing up here. So one of the ways that we are using data to improve the business experience is by helping our employees become more data literate, to be more excited about what data can do for them and how it can fit their work. And so what I'm showing you here is our mentoring program. And so what we have is 13 leaders from the department. Most of them are managers, directors, supervisors. And in here, everyone offers mentorship, all of these folks, a number of times during the year. But what's really exciting is that our director of systems, for example, Ray Uyemara, he's one of the mentors. And so I had, you know, myself and a bunch of other employees have been able to go talk to him about his thoughts on where technology is going. One instance that comes to mind is there's one mentee. She works as a customer support specialist handling phone calls and in-person visits. And she wants to grow within the department. And so she's becoming great at spreadsheets to be able to kind of support a lot of the daily reporting and data scrubbing and data input that happens at the kind of first base of employee labor and work. So the mentorship program is one way we're working to bring data and data science into our very large operations, against 12 divisions, 300 employees. We don't just get to say, hey, let's start using data science, right? Like we need to teach people how to approach these technologies, methodologies, tactics, strategies. Another example that's in line with the professional development world is taking advantage of everything that LA has to offer. So LA is a very diverse city. It's very tech curious, very tech literate. And there's this great opportunity, School of Data. It's a production of Data and Donuts. And School of Data is a local event for government employees organized by partners from all sectors with the idea and intention of ensuring our government employees know as much about data as they can and have access to all the learnings that are important for them to be the best they can be at their jobs. If they want to use proper data standards and they want to be better at data governance and data management, these types of learning opportunities are super important. Notice that they happen Thursday through Friday. Government employees, for the most part, are part of civil service classifications and unions. And so, unfortunately, for a lot of these types of employment, you just got to get people to go learn while they're on the job. And so some of the challenges that come with getting government and government staff trained up is kind of working through the intricacies of a bureaucracy. And a lot of these folks might not want to spend Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon learning, or Thursday night. And so how do we create opportunities for people to learn during hours where they're down to go do that? So School of Data is a great thing. I'll actually be teaching there. I'll be putting on a class on change management and dashboarding. So that's my main point number one. One of the first way I wanted to share with you all of how finance is better embracing data to improve the business experience is by making it a professional development priority for its employees. And so anyone that's on this podcast or that watches this recording, if you want more data to be happening, being used, more people thinking about how to use data and data standards at your office, you most definitely have to bring it into the professional development world and any professional development efforts you have. It needs to be a priority for leadership and management. So I definitely wanted to underscore that. It's not a fancy algorithm. It is saying, hey, make sure your people start getting familiar at all levels. The second point I really, really want to make is that one way we are improving the business experience and the way we work with business and the way we run our operations is by better using the data that we already have. As a large government entity, we have a lot of money and we have very little money at the same time. It is difficult to get things bought and budgeted. And so it is super important that any tools or data we have, we make the most of. It helps us get better budgets. It helps us take advantage of the very awesome technology that we can buy when we do get budgeted items. And so I want to share with you two data sets that we are in the process of bringing into our operations to be better at our workflows. And so this resource you're seeing here is called the GeoHub, geohub.lacity.org. It is one of our open data portals, and it houses a whole bunch of data sets in the form of spatial data initially. So anything we find here will first look like a map. That's what it aims to do, is to provide public LA city data through the lens of maps. And I'm going to point to a slide here that I have. So we send a lot of letters as government. This is a look at a typical workflow related to letters. So again, Office of Finance, 300 employees, 12 divisions, tasked with collecting $4 billion. We have to figure out who is conducting business activity in the city of Los Angeles, and we have to get them registered with us. If they qualify for business tax exemptions, we want them to take advantage of them. If they don't qualify, then we want them to pay their fair share. This is important because LA does not really have any property tax, very little property tax. The city business tax is what typically funds all of our city operations. And so what you're seeing here is a slide that I used in a presentation that helped build momentum for bringing more spatial data and data science into our operations. And what it looks at in the top half of the slide, it looks at the current workflow, and then the bottom is what we are proposing we do different. And this is the process by which we decide who to send letters to, paper letters. We send about 2 million of them a year. They are expensive, and they are arguably one of the least effective ways to get someone to convert if you want them to take an action. Just overall, my background's in advertising, a lot of direct mail. They're an expensive, largely ineffective way to do things, but we have to work with what we have. And what we have is a lot of addresses. So we don't have a lot of digital means to get to folks yet. So typically, we have 9 outside partner agencies, things like the Department of Water and Power, or like the Secretary of State. They send us large CSV files that are, part of our data sharing agreement, so that if someone registers a commercial utility account with the city's Department of Water and Power, chances are they're doing some kind of business, right? Or if a contractor gets paid with a 1099, then chances are doing some type of work. And so we get all of those leads in the form of large CSV files. We are, part of my vision for the department is that we can do our data dumps from outside partners through API exchanges, so that the data can be as seamlessly as possible dumped into some sort of staging area for the matching to automatically happen. But right now, we have these 9 partners send us CSV files. Our engineers and programmers in our systems team, or a systems division, they match those leads against our system of record. Then all of the leads that do not get matched, meaning all the leads that are not in our system of record, those are the ones that get sent letters to, because those are the ones we believe are businesses that are not yet registered with us. And then lastly, so we send the letters, people either respond to the letters or they don't. Those that do go and register with us through our website, or they send back paperwork, and it all gets registered in this LA tax system that you see here. That's our system of record. Now, what's interesting is that in the current way of doing things, we captured a very important piece of information at the tail end of the workflow. So we captured whether a lead was in a residential or commercial property or parcel of land at the end, once the registration happens. This is interesting because our conversion rates for commercially zoned properties are much higher than our conversion rates for residentially zoned properties. That makes a lot of sense, right? Like something in a commercially zoned property should be doing commerce, it should be doing business. And so the conversion rate is higher. And so that means that a lead that is in a residential property, one would argue should not have the same strategy as one that is in a commercial property. So we presented that idea. The leadership team said, hey, that actually makes a lot of sense. That type of variable, or having zoning as a variable in our matching process and our mailing process, can be very helpful. So what we are proposing, and what this slide shows, is that in our proposed workflow, we are keeping all of the existing steps the same, but we now want to better use the data we have to identify whether a lead is residential or commercially zoned before we send them a letter. And this is helpful. Let me zoom out of here now. I want to show you now the actual zoning layer that our planning department has and maintains on a regular basis, that is free for us to use, and it is within our fingertips here. So again, you're looking at geohub.lacity.org. It is our spatial open data portal, and it is keyword searchable. I just typed in zoning. I find here the zoning page. All of these open data portals, whether it's Los Angeles or New York or Chicago, every data set that you find through an open data portal will have this type of primer page. They look different by technology, whether it's Tyler, formerly known as Socrata, or Esri, or some form of home-baked solution. They will all have something that looks like this. You have a note on licensing, some dates around when it was last updated, a sense of how many rows there are, the attributes or columns that you will find in there. Now here in GeoHub, to open up this data set, I can download it. That's not very functional. We do have API endpoints available for this as well. But I want to open it as a web map, and this will give you all a sense of what this looks like. This will produce a map that shows all of the individual parcels in the city of Los Angeles, which is a very large city. Just give it a second, it's loading. It's a really large file. And it uses color to show us which parcels are commercially zoned and which parcels are zoned for industrial, things like that. So let's give it a second. I'm probably choking out a little bit of the connection. And so this is, you know, the planning department is one of the city entities. We are the same company, like organization, finance and planning. We're basically the same department. We're the same organization. And so here, let me zoom in a little bit so you get a sense of what this really looks like. Okay. And so this is data that, again, so how we're using this data now is we bring it into our matching phase, or what we're proposing at least. And instead of sending the same letter to everybody, we're going to prioritize sending letters to people that are in these blue or pink parcels. The pink ones are zoned commercial. The yellow ones are zoned residential. And so we will use things like phone calls, Twitter ads, email, things like that. We'll leverage the digital space more and more for the residentially zoned leads, and we will rely on our more expensive way of reaching people, letters, for those in commercial, because commercially zoned properties have historically a higher conversion rate. So that's the second main point I wanted to make here, is we're using the data that we as a city have, like our zoning information, and we're bringing that into our workflows. The Office of Finance really has nothing to do with zoning. Like it's not a discipline we really work with, but the data is extremely helpful for us. So here's one example. I have another example. This is not data that we create, meaning not the City of Los Angeles or the Office of Finance. As you can see up top, this is the County of Los Angeles. This runs on Tyler, formerly known as Socrata. And another thing you have in here is more parcel information. And so, are you kidding me? Give it a second, hold on. So we at the Office of Finance want, when it comes to real estate, if a real estate owner, the owner of an apartment building, owns and rents more than 3 units, then they are to register with us at the Office of Finance. They might be doing maintenance on their portal. If it doesn't work, I'll just tell you, but I thought it would be better to show you. Parcels, let's see. So as you can see, open data is, they're doing maintenance right now, so we're not going to be able to get in there. But data.lacounty.gov, much like the zoning layer exists in geohub.lacity.org, the LA County Assessor's Office, they have a data set that lists information for all of the parcels in the city of Los Angeles. And so we can find all of the structures that have 3 or more units that are being used for revenue generation for the owner. And this is something that we have not yet used, but it is something that can be very useful in how we target and go after our leads. If maintenance wasn't happening, I'd most definitely be sharing this with y'all. All right, we've shown zoning, assessor. I want to share with you one more example, but I want to take a quick pit stop. Are there any questions? Oh, thank you. Will there be a permalink to talk? There is someone here. Philip was asking if there will be a permalink. Yes, there should definitely be a permalink. It will be sent out after. It'll live in the YouTube channel, I believe.
Yeah, we will have we will email through the newsletters the link for our YouTube channel. Yeah, no worries about that.
Thank you, Dalia. Any other questions? Cool. Thank you, Philip. Appreciate you being here. Oh, sorry. I meant to make this. Let's close this. Okay, so I want to share one example, a very clear project. We've talked about letters a little bit. You're seeing here a back end of ArcGIS Online. It is an Esri technology. It is the spatial tool of choice for the city of Los Angeles. All of us departments use it. I teach how to use it in my classes, and I encourage everyone to use ArcGIS Online for any of the work they do. You can have free accounts with it, so it doesn't have to be a paid enterprise service. What you see on the left pane here is a bunch of layers. This is an analysis I did a few months back. It's a bunch of layers. I'm not going to open all this up. Notice that our zoning layer that we looked at is on here. So this map is one of the first ways that we started kind of laying the work for this type of kind of marker targeted approach. Now, I want to call your attention to the use of color here. We're using color in an interesting way. We have put two variables, the size of a census tract and the number of conversions we have seen historically in that census tract. And so notice that this bright orange here has 0 leads. It is bright orange because it is really big compared to this bright blue over here that is very small, but that has 127 converted leads. So what we began to do here is combine variables so we can do better resource allocation. So in the future, when we get a lead, and if that lead lands in this ginormous census tract over here, this might be just a really large park or something like that. But if there are businesses within here, we might not want to send one of our 40 or so tax compliance officer humans, which are one of our most expensive, most important resource, but most definitely one of the most expensive ones. We're trying to get into the practice where we're not going to send our humans to really large areas that don't typically have high conversion rates. So in this case, we can use some of these micro-targeting strategies and prioritize the census tracts where we typically have high conversion rates that are really small, so that we can be really strategic and thoughtful with the 40 tax compliance officers that we have. So this is an important note here that I wanted to make. I want to show real quick how to go about getting to this, just so there's a little bit of a technical demo here. Let me see what is a good example. I'm going to turn this off, and let's see if this one works. Oh, never mind. Let's do this. This is going to load up all of our historic conversions as a heat map. But if I wanted to apply the treatment of comparing two variables and putting them on like a clashing color scheme, the way I would do that, let me take one step back. I would load up a layer in ArcGIS Online, head over to the layer and click into the change style icon. It is the colorful shapes. I have to choose an initial attribute. Location only doesn't help. And so let's do, what's a good one? I'm going to do, this probably isn't a good example. Let's just choose one so you'll get a chance. Okay. So let's pretend this NICS codes are the kind of industry type. Notice that once I select one attribute, I get the opportunity to select the second one. Once I select that, so now I have selected two attributes or variables. In this case, in this example, these two don't make a whole bunch of sense. But what is very cool is that notice that by selecting two or more variables, I can play with the relationship visualization technique. So this relationship visualization selection or option is going to put both of these variables on a divergent color scale. So what you see along the left represents business type, and what you see along the right represents business ID. Clearly, this isn't that helpful, but the example that I showed you earlier Let me turn that layer back on. Here's that. And this is the type of outcome that you can get. Now, using bright colors, I definitely want to stay away from this parcel of land. This one here might not be that great. This is a big census tract to the right. I want to start focusing on the smaller areas, brightly colored. So it's a good visualization technique. We're at 5:42. I have about 10 minutes left with you all. I want to share, let me see, take a quick peek in here. I want to share a quick note on color. This comes from my data visualization classes that I teach. I want to encourage everyone to think about color, shapes, symbology, design in your data work. And so I encourage all of my students to think about color first and foremost as a solid and something that you can make brighter or darker or make more dense or more transparent. So think about the number of colors that you can get from one solid tone. Additionally, when we bring shapes into the equation, I challenge folks to make the very detail-oriented decisions of what shape do I want to use. I always start with circles, typically filled for my main feature and unfilled for secondary features. But in a shape like this, you can choose to color the outline. You can fill it with another color. I encourage you to stay away from hard edges like squares. They typically add noise. And I also don't like using symbols unless I absolutely have to. So I don't use symbols unless I have a lot of features and really need to work hard to distinguish information. This is a good look at color selection. I encourage everyone to have a handful of defaults that you always work with. For me, I like to point out that it is important for government to design and create data products with accessibility in mind. And so we typically work from the blue to orange color spectrum. We find that to be the most helpful for people that have some type of color blindness, and there's a lot of it. Also, gradients, transparency, very important in your color selection. And the last note I'll make with you all is one thing I'm extremely excited about is that the Office of Finance is, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now. Let's see where we're at. How do I open? Here we go. The Office of Finance is starting a data science section. And so that's gonna be something that is coming down the line. It's one of the ways that we will be really embracing data science at a larger, more strategic level. It will help us move our work from a less ad hoc type of reporting and data consumption to a more systematic organization-wide effort. So I've shared with you a few things that I'm excited about at the Office of Finance that improve the business experience, things in professional development, a lot of how we're leveraging the current data we have and bringing spatial data into it. And once our data science section gets formally built up, hopefully we can do a lot more data science. Eventually blockchain might be part of our mix at the Office of Finance, but still kind of far away from that. And you know, artificial intelligence, we got a little more ways to go before government can really embrace it, but I'm excited for the future. So any questions from anyone there, always happy to address. And thanks again.
Thank you, Juan. That was very interesting. I think some people still don't know how many technological and how many coding work in the Office of Finance City of Los Angeles you do. So there is a question from Philip. Are there any data sources at the Office of Finance that are available for public consumption? I guess those links that you posted are public, right?
Yes, those are totally public. So the GeoHub that I mentioned, Philip, is spatial. There's no data. We used to have a data set on there. Unfortunately, we don't maintain it anymore. I'm trying to argue leadership to make it a mandate to get it back up there. But we do have one, but you can't access it right now because it's being maintained. But if you go to data.lacity.org, you will find, if you just click into data catalog, the second option that pops up is active registered businesses. So those are the 500,000 businesses, the individual specific locations with about 16 columns. There is another data set that we don't really publicize that much, that is the cousin to it, that is the all businesses data set. And this one I find more exciting because it has everybody that's registered, but it has also everybody that has ever closed a business that has been registered with us. So it's a really interesting look at the history of business in LA, what's closed, what's still around. So I encourage you to seek both of those at data.lacity.org once maintenance isn't happening. So just go tomorrow.
All right, Philip, I hope, yeah, he says thanks. So I have another question. You mentioned that you use colors such as blue and orange in your map. That's because the problem was colorblind people and stuff like that. I wonder why you decided exactly those two colors, because I'm colorblind too, and I've never, well, I rarely see how people try to target on those colorblind.
So this became a so here's why this matters. Government gets sued a lot if they create things that are not accessible. And so in my last 10 years, I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of designers. And that is a design recommendation made by the lead designer from the mayor's innovation team. That's how, when they're choosing feature selection, you tell me if this is right. It supposedly the blue to orange color scheme creates more contrast than other color schemes. I believe like the red to green is less contrast depending on the color blindness. And so I'm not colorblind, so I can't for sure know, but it would be interesting to know if maybe I've been lying for like 3 years, and that might be the case. I hope not.
I was wondering if you just made a research with a couple of colorblind to see if it's actually true. That's just was my question.
Yeah. I hope it's true. I hope it. But yeah, the lead designer from the mayor's innovation team.
I see. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. Sure.
Let me see. So no one has any questions.
Cool. Well, it's been wonderful spending time with you all. I look forward to sharing the link after, and always happy to be part of ideas.
Thank you so much, Juan. We are very excited. Thank you for your time. Thank you for doing this on Saturday. I know you have some kind of family get-together and stuff like that, and you spent a whole hour. Yeah, we really appreciate. If you just can drop the link of the data, lacounty.org.
Oh, for sure. Into the chat?
Yeah, so that people can.
Sure thing. So here's one. Let me drop in GeoHub. And where was the LA County open data? Let me actually go one step further. I have a running list of open data resources. I love data science, and I'm on track to becoming a badass data scientist, but my strength is open data. I'm working my way towards the data science world. So, but I have a really cool list. Which one is it? Let me see if this is it. Yeah, cool. So I'll dump this into the comment section. It's just a whole bunch of open data portals, visualization tools, web tools. So there's that one. Have fun with it. And I hope anyone in LA, feel free to come to some of my classes. We'd love to see you all there. All
right. So yeah, thank you for everything again. And for those who join us today, thank you for your time. And for those who are watching the recording, next time I hope you can join us for the next webinar. And so yeah, I guess this is the end of the webinar. So thank you again, Juan.
Great.
Hope to see you. Yeah.
Bye.
Goodbye. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.